Hello, everybody, and welcome to Season 1, Episode 3 of the Skull Chat. I am your host, Sam Wantuck, and as always, I'm joined by my co-host, Ethan Decker. Ethan, how you doing this fine night?
I'm doing great. I hope we got some interesting and some good stuff for Viking information and NFL information to provide for you guys tonight.
I hope so, too. I think we got some good stuff lined up today. We've got some good news articles to dive into. Once we're done with that, we've got a top 5 list we're going to share. We've both made our own top 5 list, and it's our top 5 Vikings teams within recent memory. We're just including the teams that we know more personally. So my list is just from 2009 to the present. I don't know exactly when Decker started his list.
I kept it roughly around like 2006 on.
Okay. Yep. So obviously 1998's not going to be on there, but I still think that we've got some good teams to share. And of course, it's not always the best record. It's what teams. Well, what I went off of is which teams we enjoyed watching the most. But first, let's dive into some articles. And Decker, you said you were doing great today.
Yep.
I think it's safe to say that you're probably doing better than Richard Sherman.
Yeah. I think that's a fair statement.
There's just been so much stuff coming out about that. I don't know if there's one person who knows the entire story besides Richard Sherman himself. But it was he was apparently intoxicated, if I remember correctly, and he went to his uncle or his grandfather.
I think it was I believe it was his father-in-law's house.
Father-in-law's house, yes,
Yeah.
and he was trying to break down the door, trying to come through, as he so eloquently stated. It's just, I mean, I'd find it hard to imagine that there's going to be a single team trying to sign him at this point. After that,
Yeah. Yep.
like the fact that he's gone this far already and not been signed is definitely a sign that this is going to be the tipping point for him, I think.
Yeah. Of course, there were some teams interested here a little bit ago. I know at one point the Niners were interested in re-signing, but it wasn't fully sure because of Robert Saleh and in New York now. The Raiders were interested, I believe, trying to keep him on the West Coast. The Seahawks were interested in a reunion, possibly. And I know it's a little bit crazy, but I know the Vikings were... There was a little bit of rumors going around, like maybe if we're all in, maybe we go sign Richard Sherman, bring in one more veteran presence. I think that is fully out the window now, if I'm going to be completely honest. I don't really see a team going after him at this point. This is kind of like a Ray Rice effect when that all went down. Obviously not as violent as the Ray Rice situation was, but Ray Rice had his situation and never came back into the NFL. He ended up getting cut, and he just never returned. Sherman's an older guy, older than Ray Rice was when his entire situation goes down. So I think at this point, I just don't see a team with the whole lawsuit and all like this court stuff going down. I don't really see Richard Sherman getting another opportunity. I think that he might just call it now.
I think that might be for the best, especially since you have to wonder how much of this might be associated with multiple head injuries. Of course, you hope that that's not the case and that this is a rough patch he can go over. But it's tough to say. But Sherman, it was a good run. I loved watching you in the Legion of Boom.
And he was obviously a pest for many years, and his play backed it up for a long time. So, I mean, if this is it, he's got some stuff to figure out. But if this is it, he'll have a case for the Hall of Fame, I believe.
Yeah, I definitely think he could definitely be, if not first, like second or third ballot Hall of Famer. No question about that.
I agree.
But while your week is going better on the Richard Sherman's, Decker, your week is definitely not going better than Mr. Taylor Moton, who just got signed to a 4-year, $72 million extension with $43 million guaranteed. Woo, that's a lot of money. Holy crap.
That's a big money for a right tackle.
I don't watch a lot of Carolina Panthers football, but I do hear his name going around a lot, so I'm sure that he does deserve the money. With the way the market is now, I'm sure that it's going to be not even up there with like the most money the right tackle will be paid. But I think the question that a lot of Vikings fans will be asking now is, what does this mean about Brian O'Neill's contract extension? How do you think this is going to affect it?
Yeah, I think obviously Taylor Moton has been in the league for about maybe a year or two longer than Brian O'Neill. They're kind of the same boat. They're both right tackles. They both play the position really solidly. And Taylor Moton doesn't allow a lot of sacks. But if I had to guess what O'Neill's going to get now, I think he gets just a tad bit less. So I believe, like you said, Moton got $43 million guaranteed.
Mm-hmm.
I think O'Neill gets roughly in the range of like 35 to 40 in that area. It could be like 37, 38, but I think O'Neill's not the type to demand a whole lot. Where like you'd want like Ramczyk money. Obviously Ramczyk got a lot from the Saints. I cannot remember how much guaranteed that really was.
Yeah.
And obviously no one is gonna get like Trent Williams money, where that was just unreal. But I think O'Neill just solidly takes like a maybe like a 5-year and like the 35 to 40 million dollar range for him guaranteed. I think that's a good mark for him over that course of time.
Yeah, no, I definitely would think that would be very suitable. I mean, I think if we were to match the Taylor Moton price, but then like with an add on a year or two, I'd be fine with that. But I'm sure that he'll probably want to make his contract like a 4 or 3 year deal, so he can really get that pay jump later on.
Yeah.
But
because I think O'Neill right now is 25 or 26. So if we were to take him 5 years, I would take him like into his age 30, 31 season, and then let him hit the free agency market. I wouldn't be opposed to that, and then see where his play is then. But I think for right now, just off his rookie deal, or like he's in the last year of his rookie deal technically, building off this extension, take him to like that 30, 31 age, and then we reevaluate it there. So, yeah, I think 5 years for right now won't be too bad.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree with that. I hope that we can find a good deal for him, that both parties can be very happy about. One thing that I was really happy about, I should mention, and I'm sure you were happy too because you sent it to me. There was some high praise from Mr. Linval Joseph himself, Big Goon, to Michael Pierce. He said, Michael Pierce is young and talented and will shock the league this year with his performance. I am very happy to hear such high praise from my favorite man himself. How happy are you to hear this, Decker?
Yeah, I think this is fantastic. Now, if any of you listening follow Linval Joseph, Big Goon 98 on Instagram, you can see that over the offseason, he's been grinding it out. Obviously, not for our team, but for the Chargers. He's been grinding out in the weight room, really putting in the work in, and then really dieting very well too for him. And early in the offseason, he was working out with Julio Johnson. And obviously, Julio Johnson was with us for 4 years. He's no longer with us. He was not a player to really get hyped around. But now, over this past couple days, you've seen him working out with our very own Michael Pierce. Obviously, very similar guys. Nose tackles for the Vikings. And this is like a perfect like passing of the torch, in my opinion. You get Linval Joseph, who did his thing phenomenally for 2014 to 2019, about 5-6 years there. And he did phenomenally for us. So now it's like a passing of the torch where like Michael Pierce is going to come in. Who knows yet if he's going to have as big of an impact as Linval had with us. But it's nice to know that Linval is still like supporting the Vikings, still wants success. And he's really passing that torch on to Michael Pierce. Hey, take my role, see what you can do with it. And I'm loving it. I think that's great.
I am very happy to hear that, obviously, and you explained it very well. But Linval, if you want to come on to the show and elaborate further, we will waste no time getting you onto the show. So
and anybody listening, if you wanna hit up Linval, DMs and anything, comment section on his post. Tell him to come on. Tell him we're waiting for him. We want him.
We need this man to come
Yes.
to this podcast. It would make my life. Anyways, that's our news for today. But now let's move on to the main core of this episode. We have our top 5 teams in recent memory. So the way we're going to kind of format this is we're going to share some of our honorable mentions, and then we'll go like 5 from Decker, 5 from me, 4 from Decker, 4 from me, etc., etc. So I don't know who wants to start. I'd be willing to start with my honorable mentions.
Okay, and yeah, like Wontok said, we're gonna keep this from so we were both like Wontok was born in 2001. I was born like literally right at the beginning, first week in 2002. So we're gonna keep it from our era, from like basically 2001/2002 to present day, and our favorite memories from those teams along the way. So
yes, I think so that's what we're going to be doing with this one today. So I'm going to kick it off with my first honorable mention. My only honorable mention I should mention is 2019.
okay.
I liked watching this team. Well, there's a reason why it's my honorable mention, because while this team was very good and it was fun to watch at times, it was also so incredibly frustrating. I remember sometimes, our offense just couldn't do anything, and our defense was doing everything. It seemed like that year, or was that? Yeah, it was 2019. I'm thinking of.
Yep.
It was a team that you could be excited about because you knew that they were never like really out of a game. Like they would be competitive. It was just very unfortunate that sometimes that team could just make you want to pull your hair out. So that's why it's my number 6 honorable mention.
Yeah, and I'll make a little point on that as well. 2019 was also not on my list. It was right on the outside looking in though. And like Wontok said, if anybody remembers 2019, I believe we were through week 4. We had just lost in Soldier Field. And there was a lot of turmoil going on in the locker room. Diggs, Thielen, Kirk getting into it on the sidelines, getting into it in the building, behind the scenes. And it was looking really bad there for a while there. It was looking like I don't think we're going to be able. It looked like maybe we weren't going to go to the playoffs for 2 years in a row. But we got to figure it out. And like Wontok said, there were some tough moments during that season. Obviously, I think finally with that Broncos game, I believe week 11 of that year, when the Broncos were up, I think it was 21-3.
Oh,
24-3 around that. And then we came back and just stormed back in the second half and ended up winning that game. But there's a lot going on. Obviously, this was Diggs' last year, and we ended up trading him. But obviously the highlight of that season that everybody remembers is us being heavily underdogs going into New Orleans in the wild card round. New Orleans was 13-3 playing in that wild card game. We were 10-6, and we were double-digit underdogs. And we come into the Superdome, we win that game. Obviously, Kirk had the drive of his lifetime with the Vikes here. And then obviously the next week we go to San Francisco and drop an absolute egg. So obviously that season had some high points, had some low points, but it is for both of us just on the outside looking in.
Yeah. And so, even more honorable mentions you want to mention quick or?
One that I don't have, I don't know if you have. I kept out the 2007 Vikes. 2007 Vikes was like the first year I was like really kind of into it, where I was really kind of checking out every game a little bit. That was obviously AP's rookie year. And there was a lot of good moments that year. Obviously AP's first like touchdown against the Falcons that year. He had the 296-yard game against the Chargers that year. We did not make the playoffs that year. But it was still a very nice year to see Adrian Peterson really take off to that to the player he ended up being with the Vikings. But I just left that on the outside, but that is like my honorable mention.
Yeah, that was a good year too. That was. I didn't watch too much that year, but I remember just like the few games I watched and how awesome Peterson looked. I was so excited to have such a good player on the team and to see where he would go from that point on.
Yeah, and we took him 7th overall in that draft, so that was really high for running back. Obviously, when you're drafted that high for a running back, big things are expected. And we didn't really know what to expect of AP in the NFL, but that year really showed what AP was going to become for us.
Yes. Moving on to my number 5. This one is not because it was a good season, but just because of how clearly I remember this season. And that would be the 2016 season. Now,
Okay.
a lot of you know that this was when we had to sign Sam Bradford very quickly because Teddy had the horrific knee injury that year, and we had a completely awesome 5-0 start. It was. It was a Vikings fan's dream come true. Sam Darnold looked like the Christ reincarnate, and
Sam Bradford.
oh, sorry, did I say Darnold?
Yeah, I think Darnold and Bradford had seemed to be getting mixed up for you.
Yeah, I think I've said that like today too when I was like making this list. I kept saying Darnold.
Yeah. Yep.
Bradford, Sam Bradford looked so good with the Vikings. We were walking to lunch. Decker and me, both 14 years old, and I remember saying to Decker walking to lunch, I said, "There is no reason that this team, at its current level, could not go 16-0." And that's when I ate my words, and we finished the year 3-8 because Sam fell off a damn cliff, and we did not have a rushing game after Peterson went down that year.
Yep.
But when I was looking through like the through the box scores of this season, I didn't realize how close most of these games were. I mean, our defense really kept us in these games well because there were so many low scoring affairs, like ones where it was like 16-18. I think it was like week 6 or week 7 was like the final score. Games like that were like we were never really out of it. We just was always like 1 or 2 plays that would have gotten us the win, but we just couldn't deliver. While it was a very disappointing year, it's just one that I remember so clearly. So I think it's only fair to have it at number 5 on my list.
Yeah, that's a good point. Your point about close games, I do remember that the game where the Lions came in that year, and it ended up going to overtime. But Matt Prater, if you remember right, we had the game in hand, and Prater hit a 63-yard field goal, I believe, to send that to overtime.
Oh yeah.
And then Stafford came back in overtime, and that's when Golden Tate had that catch for a touchdown where he like hurdled Sendejo.
Oh god.
And they ended up winning the game. That was a nightmare one. And I believe the one game we got blown out that year, I'd have to check again, but I believe it was week 15 when the Colts came into town that year. We didn't have AP yet, or I think that might have been the first game we had back of AP, and we just dropped an egg. It was an absolute blowout. It was so ugly. It's so ugly to watch. It was unreal.
Yeah. Yeah, that Golden Tate thing you mentioned really unlocked some terrible memories. But, yep, that's my number 5 right there, 2016.
Okay. My number 5 is the year after 2007. I have the 2008 Vikes for me. That year, the Vikings had the 12th best offense. We had the 6th best defense. We went 10-6, and we lost in the wild card game to the Eagles that year. I remember that playoff game. Donovan McNabb and the boys came in. Brian Westbrook at running back, if any of the viewers remember him at all. But I put this as my number 5 because this was really the year after. This is when AP sophomore year really kept taking off. Another big reason I put this on here is because this was the first season we had Jared Allen. We had acquired Jared Allen from the Chiefs that offseason. Jared Allen came in, obviously played a huge impact on the team. We had the Williams wall, Pat and Kevin Williams. We had Ray Edwards at the end. B-Rob was in there, if anybody remembers him. Chad Greenway, Ben Lieber, those guys. E.J. Henderson, linebacker. Tavares Jackson at quarterback did his thing. But I thought it was just a very good year for the team. Obviously, to build off the 8-8 year we had in AP's rookie year to 10-6 and getting to the playoffs. And AP really just kept solidifying himself. And then Jared Allen obviously just providing that big spark on defense for us. So 2008 Vikes, number 5 on my list.
Yeah, that was definitely a good choice there because that team was definitely very solid and like almost we would learn from the year after what that team really needed was what was some more solid quarterback play.
Yes. Yep.
So that was definitely a year that, while it's not as locked in my memory as some of these other years, it's definitely one that I remember fondly as well. So yeah, very solid number 5 pick there. Going on to my number 4 pick, this would be 2012. I don't really have much to say about 2012 other than the fact that it was MVP Peterson. Holy shit, was that fun to watch.
That was.
Oh man, every Sunday was just awesome. Of course, you have to mention the fact it was the week 16 or week 17 game, I should say, week 17, the last game of the year, when Peterson was trying to break Emmitt Smith's record.
Eric Dickerson.
Oh, Dickerson. I don't.
Yeah.
God, names are hard today. Trying to break his record, and it was just so short of. He was just short of that record, and that did make me kind of very upset that he was just like 1 or 2 plays away from getting there. But yeah, 2012 simply because Peterson was just awesome to watch that year. He definitely deserved MVP.
2,096 yards he finished with. Also coming off that torn ACL. That was his first year off the torn ACL. And it was just a remarkable story. Number 4 for me, I have the 2015 Minnesota Vikings. That year, the Vikings finished with the 16th best offense, obviously average in the league, right dead middle, and they had the 5th best defense for an 11-5 record and a loss in the wild card round to the Seahawks. Obviously, many will remember that as Blair Walsh missing wide left, 27 yards. But a big reason I put this on my list for 2015 was I think this was a big statement year. 2014 obviously was the first year of Zimmer. That was rookie Teddy. Matt Castle actually started that year. Teddy came in after Castle got injured, and Teddy took the reins. But the reason why I say this is a big statement year is because we got to see Teddy in his sophomore year, see what he could do. Peterson was still playing good, but it was huge for Zimmer's defense. Obviously, Zimmer to this day is still a defensive guru. But 2014, we were average. But with 2015 came around, we really just solidified everything. We had that was obviously coming off the best draft class probably in Viking history. We took Eric Kendricks in the second round. We had Trey Waynes in the first round, Eric Kendricks in the second round, Danielle Hunter in the third round, and obviously we found Stephon Diggs in the 5th round. And it's just a big statement because once we added Kendricks and Waynes and Danielle on that defense, everything started clicking. We still had Captain Munnerlyn, Terrence Newman, and those type of guys. So it was just a huge year for us to be able to this. Now this is the defense that we expect, top 5 every year, and it was just a fun year. Obviously we should have went a lot farther had it not been for Blair Walsh. Obviously, we played the Seahawks great. That's when the Seahawks were still in their Super Bowl window when we were playing them. Just absolutely shut down their offense, and they shut us down too. But 2015 for me, pretty solid year.
Yep, that was actually my next one on number 3. So I'm just going to carry on into my number 3, which was 2015. And just like Decker said, that defense was the first year where I said, "Wow, this is just a great group of guys we have just compiled here." It was really great to watch. You had the year for Teddy Bridgewater, pretty much 2015 to the 2016 preseason, which I watched a few games of that. Teddy really looked like our guy. Going off of years with Ponder and just like the quarterback, the quarterback carousel, it definitely seemed like Bridgewater was going to be here to stay. Of course, what could have been with the knee injury, but that was the year where I thought, yeah, Bridgewater could really be something. And of course, Peterson had another very solid outing. I think he had 1,200 rushing yards with 9 or something touchdowns that year. He was fun to watch as always. And but this year will always be tainted by that Blair Walsh wide left. I watching that game with my dad and thinking, oh, Blair Walsh, he's automatic. There's no way he misses. Seeing that go left for the first about 30 seconds or so, I didn't think this was like actually happening. I thought I was dreaming. Like legit, it was wild. So yeah. So I think if that didn't happen, 2015 would be higher because I think we would have made a really deep playoff run. But as it stands, as history stands, 2015 is my number 3.
Yeah, we would have had to gone on to face the Panthers that year. The year they made the Super Bowl, and yeah, and going back to that game, yeah, Blair Walsh was 3 for 3 in field goals. He was all of our points that year in that game. So that was a definite heartbreaker.
Yeah.
But for my number 3 now, like Wantuck had at his number 4 spot, I have the 2012 Vikes as my number 3. That year we were 14th best offense, and 14th best defense, and we were 10-6 that year. Obviously, like Wantuck pretty much summed up. That was the year of AP. That was AP's year. That was no Christian Ponder. That was Christian Ponder just handing the ball off to AP the entire year. Had a good old line to run behind. Jerome Felton at fullback, I remember. Our defense did solid enough. This was the second year of Leslie Frazier. He was obviously our defensive coach. So the defense was very average for us as well, right in the middle of the league. But I think the one thing that really stands out from this season for me that kind of has this list, has it as number 3 for me, was we were 6-6, and we had to win the last 4 games of the year to make the playoffs. Vikings won 4-0, and that Week 17 game against the Packers, when the Packers came into town, it was AP's game, and then Blair Walsh ended up getting the game-winning field goal to send us into the playoffs. Was just so much joy behind that. And then we had to go back the following week in the wild card round to play the Packers with Christian Ponder out, and for the diehards out there, the hardcore fans that will remember this, Joe Webb started that playoff game. And we had to go to cold Lambeau in the beginning of January, and we got shut down. Ended up losing that game, but again, this is so high for me because it was such a fun year just to watch AP come off his torn ACL, really show all the league what like the type of animal he really is, and almost break Dickerson's record. Like I said, 2,096 yards is what he finished with. So, yeah, 2012 Vikes number 3 for me.
Yep. I mean, that's a very good spot. Like, it was definitely very hard for me to choose between 3 and 4. So I think that, yeah, that could have been my number 3 too. But yeah, it was just it was a fun ride to put it bluntly. And I'm moving on to my number 2. This might be a lot of people's number 1, but that would be the 2009 Vikings. Of course, this is just stapled up by the signing of Brett Favre. That was probably like the craziest thing that happened to a small kid from Minnesota who lived right on the border of Wisconsin. Like our elementary school, Decker and I, that was like half Vikings and half Packer fans since we're right along Mississippi River. And it was so much fun to just laugh in the faces of all the Packer fans, saying, we have Brett Favre and you don't. That was very fun for the 7-8-year-old me that was. Of course, Adrian Peterson, he was still getting better as time went on, and that whole roster was just so solid. And of course, we all know the NFC Championship. I'm not going to delve into that too much. And this could definitely have been my number one. The only problem was that it's very foggy in my memory because that was the first year that I actually watched like all the way through. That was like my first year watching football, so it's definitely the foggiest. Maybe if I remembered it better, it would be number one. But as it stands, it's my number two season.
Okay. My number two is the 2017 Vikings. I'm assuming that is going to be your number one now, but I won't hold anything against you. But for number two for me is the 2017 Vikings. We had the 10th best offense that year, and of course the number one defense. That was the year of the defense. 13-3, a magical year, and then obviously they lost in the NFC Championship game. But number two for me, just because, again, a lot of memorable spots during this year. We started off the year, that was rookie year, Dalvin Cook. Started off the year with Bradford. Bradford, of course, like always in his career, got hurt. Week two, who comes in? None other than the man behind me in my picture back here, as you'll see in the video, Mr. Case Keenum himself. A very fun year. Case Keenum did the unthinkable. Nobody thought a German quarterback could come in, lead us to 13-3. But it happened. Obviously, the defense, I could go up and down of how great this defense was. Everson, Daniil, Linval, Tom Johnson, Kendricks, Barr, Sendejo, Smith, Waynes, Rhodes, All-Pro Xavier Rhodes. Just no holes anywhere. An awesome team. I think this year, too, I really think the Vikings could have been 14-2 had it not been for Dalvin Cook's torn ACL in Week 4 against the Lions. That was an absolute heartbreaker. I don't know how far this team could have gone had Dalvin stayed healthy his entire rookie year, but I think we would have won that game, and we probably would have had home field throughout the playoffs. Obviously, Latavius Murray, Jerick McKinnon did their thing during the regular season to carry us to that, but it's a big what if Dalvin stayed healthy. Obviously, as we got into the playoffs, we played the Saints, are up 17-0 at halftime. Saints come back, 3 touchdowns, take the lead on us, went back and forth. Obviously, we looked dead in the water, major collapse. None other than the play was called 7 Heaven. Case Keenum, Diggs, 63 yards, Minneapolis Miracle. Fantastic. All of us thinking, man, this is Super Bowl. That was far from the case. Obviously, next week we go into Philly. Our heads were as high as they were. And we drop a bomb. We get hit by Foles. So, I think this is why it goes number 2 for me, based off the how the NFC Championship game finished. But still a fun, such a memorable year that I don't think any of us will ever forget.
Yep. I'm just going to go right into my number 1 because you read my mind. My number 1 was 2017 Vikings. And I'm just going to list it off for you. Case Keenum. What a surprise he was. I remember watching... I was at the game where it was the Vikings versus the Rams. And we absolutely shut down primetime Todd Gurley. Like, that was, he was a beast back then. He wasn't arthritis knee Todd Gurley. This was good Todd Gurley. And I think he had... either he had less or he had 50 yards rushing that day. We absolutely shut that man down. And there was a throw. There was a throw that that Case made, because that O-line was still trash, obviously. Case Keenum made a spectacular throw. He was literally getting like tackled, like getting sumo slammed, and he threw the ball perfectly to Thielen, I think it was. Might have been Diggs or Thielen, but it was like this guy has absolutely no fear. He, which is kind of my one big gripe when it comes to Kirk, is that when he's in the pocket, he always seems more afraid. Case had something to prove. Case was trying to get he was still chasing the bag, per se. And so he was like, well, I have to make this throw. So he would just do it. Yeah, that man had balls that year. And of course, Dalvin, first first 4 weeks. And that was awesome to watch. Like, I remember, like, I'm thinking as a fan, I was like, who's going to be the next AP? Like, will there ever be a next AP? And those first 4 weeks, he was definitely showing it. Like, he was playing great football. Of course, on the ACL tear, but he's definitely shown now that he can be the next AP. But of course, Jerick McKinnon and Latavius Murray stepped in fantastically. They were a great running back duo, and they did their part well. So, yeah. Oh, and I almost didn't mention Minneapolis Miracle. That I will watch that play like today, just randomly, and I will still get chills. Of course, if you watch the introduction video, you've heard the story about how my father and I, we just locked eyes, and we hugged right in the middle of the living room. It was the closest we've ever been. No other year, I think, unless we won the Super Bowl, will come close to 2017. What an awesome year.
Yep. And to go back to your Keenum point, it was nice to have a quarterback play with a chip on his shoulder. Obviously, with Kirk, he broke the bank when he signed with us, so you don't really have that chip on your shoulder. But when Case came in, he played obviously like his job was on the line. Like, this was everything he had. And it was such a good time to have a mobile quarterback. Teddy was mobile, but then we lost him. Bradford wasn't mobile. We bring in Case, and Case can make everything. I mean, he could just create open space and just make unreal throws at times. So, obviously, we wish we had a better finish. I'll still take it to the grave with me that if we go to the Super Bowl, we play the Patriots. I still think there's no way in chance that Brady and Belichick come in and beat us with everything we had behind us.
Yes, definitely.
But obviously, a big mystery, but still a great season no matter what. Now, obviously, my number one, which was One Talk's number two, but the 2009 Vikes stand out atop our era, for number one team. The 2009 Vikes that year had the second best offense, the 10th best defense for a 12-4 record, and obviously the heartbreaking loss in the NFC Championship game. But the reason why this stands out alone, obviously, Brett Favre went back and forth in retirement. We ended up talking him out of retirement for the second time after he retired with the Jets. Came to the Vikings, and Favre played with that chip too, like kind of like Keenum. But Favre wanted to get back at the Packers. And that year was just so special because we got to see rookie year Percy Harvin really stand out with Favre. Sidney Rice was an All-Pro. Adrian Pearson was an All-Pro. Offensive line, this is like the prime time when our offensive line was just unreal. We had Bryant McKinney at left tackle. Obviously, Hall of Famer this year, Steve Hutchinson at left guard. I remember we had Matt Burke at center, Anthony Herrera at right guard, and right tackle I believe was Ryan Cook. But we stood out, and right tackle was Phil Lodeholt, if anybody remembers him. A big man. But that's when our offensive line was just so good. Favre was never felt the pressure. He could stand back in the pocket, make throws. I believe Favre had like 4,600 yards in that area, almost 40 touchdowns, with like 6 picks. So that was such a fun year. The defense did their thing, obviously. And then what I love about that season too was the divisional round game when we played at the Metrodome, and we absolutely throttled the Cowboys 34-3 when they had Romo. Favre to Rice had 3 touchdowns that game. And then the next week, going to the Superdome, and obviously this was during prime Bountygate scandal for the Saints. Favre was just bruised beyond belief, purple in the ankle and leg, everywhere. We had the game. All we had to do was hand off the ball to AP, milk the clock, get a field goal with Ryan Longwell, who, in my opinion, obviously Blair Walsh had his good years there with the Vikings too, but I think Ryan Longwell was really the last consistent kicker the Vikings had, that we didn't have a heart attack when he would be up there kicking field goals. But yeah, that's all we had to do was just milk the clock down and kick the field goal for the win, and the Saints wouldn't have had no time. But game ended up going to overtime, and then obviously Viking fans will remember that Garrett Hartley for the Saints kicked the game-winning field goal to send the Saints to the Super Bowl. Absolute heartbreaker as well. Same with 2017. But I think reason why this stands out to me as the number one season is 2017 we got blown out in the NFC Championship game. 2009 we were right there. Ended up just being a game-winning field goal. So obviously a lot more competitive that year. But yeah, 2009, obviously first year with Favre. It was just so exciting to watch that entire year. It was, every single game felt like a must watch.
Definitely, yeah. I mean, as I said, like 2009 probably could be my number one, but you remember it much better than I do. But I mean, I'd find it hard to believe that if you were to um, take most Vikings fans, like poll them all. I think most would definitely say either 09 or 17 is their favorite season in recent memory, not counting 98. So, yeah, I think that you could flip those and it would be very, very reasonable. So, yeah, that is our top five. And I think that both had very solid lists. And yeah, no complaints on my end there. And I suppose, what?
Yeah, I was gonna say I hope we kept it good for you guys tonight. Obviously, a little apology is just we're kind of lacking on the content right now. Obviously, it's a stale point of the off season right now in the NFL. We're about 2 weeks out from training camp, so once training camp, preseason, regular season get going, you better believe we're gonna have a lot of good content coming out for you guys.
Yes, definitely. Yeah. I mean, I probably should have mentioned it, but yeah. Once we start getting the season rolling, I mean, you better believe that we're gonna be really cranking out some good stuff for you guys. But yeah, so this would be the part of the episode where we dive into some Q&A. But currently we don't have a lot of questions to share. So
we're still looking for that.
Exactly. We still need more questions. So if you have a question that you want to ask, you can DM us on Instagram. That would be @skull.chat. But you can also send us an email at askskullchat@gmail.com. That is askskullchat@gmail.com. It can be football related, or it can be something else. It can be something like a general question. Of course, football is our bigger priority, but if you want to know our favorite flavor of Cheetos, we will briefly answer that.
Juan Talk's got a top 20 list of Mountain Dew flavors if anybody's interested in that.
Ooh.
Literally anything.
Yes.
Literally anything.
Ask us a question, and we'd love to get into it, especially right now where there's not much to talk about. Yeah.
We're at the very, very stale part of the off season.
Yeah. So send them in. Whatever you want.
Yeah. And anybody that watches this or listens to this, keep spreading the message about us, because we want to keep providing content for more viewers. We really want people to come across us, and obviously a lot of people out there in this region love the Vikings and in this state. So with the more people we keep getting, we better believe we're gonna keep pumping out that content.
You bet we will. All right. Thank you all for watching. Have a good night, everyone.